Hello, church. We are looking at Esther's chapters 3 and 4 today, and we'll get introduced to Haman, right? The villain of the story. And so Haman's desire is to get revenge on Mordecai, Esther's uncle, who has not been giving him the respect that he desires. And so instead of just punishing one person, he decides to devise a scheme to try and kill all the Jews in the king's kingdom. Once again, as we looked at yesterday, that's a large section of earth. So we don't know the exact number, but there'd be quite a few Jews that Haman is looking to kill. So the king takes this bad advice, thinking, okay, well, Haman's going to give me money to kill these people. And then we get to deal with all the spoils of their possessions once they're all dead. So this sounds like a good plan. Once again, bad advice. And so the Jews of the land, as they hear about this, there's kind of a deadline on when these events were going to take place. And so they are crying out and seeking God's mercy and his provision. And Mordecai is speaking back and forth with Esther, letting her know what's going on. And we're going to see what he tells her in chapter 4, verses 13 and 14. We read this. Then Mordecai told them to reply to Esther, "Do not imagine that you are in the king's palace and can escape any more than all of the Jews," right? If this edict goes in place, doesn't matter where you're living, death is going to come for you. 14. "For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place, and you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have not attained royalty for such a time as this," right? Mordecai knows everything that's happened before in Israel's history and knows that even though they're suffering now in exile, that God's plans will still come about, that the whole world will be blessed through the nation of Israel. So he knows that even though Haman is trying to kill them all, he knows that somehow God is going to intervene. But he says to Esther, look, this blessing you have of privilege, of status, of wealth, of connection to the king is not just for your own benefit, but that you've been placed here to be part of God's timing, to be part of God's working out in history to save his people. Right? God has his providence, has his plans on how these things are going to work out, and yet he amazingly allows us to play a part in that. So just as Esther, can we view our lives as being part of God's timing? Can we realize that we cannot remain silent, that we need to tell people of the fact that Jesus Christ is coming back? So as big as this death penalty looked like for all the Jews, we know that ultimately every human being is going to die and face judgment. Either when Christ comes back or of natural causes or whatever else, we know that death is a present reality on this earth. So can we realize that the privileges, the placement that God has for us is this, so that we do not remain silent, that we can declare that there's salvation, forgiveness of sins through Jesus Christ alone. All right, church, be encouraged. Realize God's timing is in your life, and be bold and loving to share with people how they can be made right with a holy and just God. Have a great day.